Morning. Just going to do an original song celebrating the season of Advent and the coming of the Lord Jesus. And just to get you familiar with it for the first round, and then we'll come back to it and see if you want to sing along. Lie naked on the ground, down here, down low. Did you see the star in the sky? Heard the baby cry. For all we're meant to be down here, down low. Far beyond what I could hope for, beyond the dreams I could wish for, you came down to be here with me, down here, down low. Did you sing in harmony, lifted on angels' wings? Gloria, down here, down down here, down low. Did you hear the angels sing? When heaven sent a newborn king, we all bow down, we bow down.
Got it, Grant.
Hello? Got it.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Morning. It's so good to be with you this morning. Welcome to Bruce City Church. My name is Shelley, and it's just a joy to be able to welcome you here this morning. And this week, I got to go to and hear a rendition of Handel's Messiah, and it was glorious. And two of our own were in it, and it was lovely, and we just enjoyed it so much. But every time I hear that music, I'm amazed that, first of all, it was written in 24 days. That to me is so mind-boggling when gifted people are gifted in ways that are just so extravagant like that. But it always brings me back to the book of Isaiah, and just a lot of the words come from it, and the prophet Isaiah and his words during the Advent season are always something that kind of just draw me in. So I just want to start there this morning. And I'm going to read from Isaiah 9, and just let these words maybe invite you in to a space as we seek the Prince of Peace, as we wait for his arrival, as at the first Advent, and now as we wait in the second Advent. So hear these words of Isaiah. The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. Those who live in the dark land, the light will shine on them. You, O God, will increase the nation. You will multiply their joy. They will rejoice before you like the joy and jubilation of the harvest, as men rejoice when they divide the spoil of victory. For you will break the yoke of Israel's burden and the staff on their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor as at the battle of Midian. For every boot of the marching warrior in the battle tumult, and every soldier's garment rolled in blood will be used for burning fuel for the fire. And then these words, for to us a child shall be born, to us a son shall be given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. There shall be no end to the increase of his government and of his peace. And he shall rule on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from that time forward and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will accomplish this. And so this morning, Father, we receive your invitation of waiting and expectation, your invitation to know you as the Prince of Peace. Would you meet us in that space? And would you give us ears to hear all that your Spirit has for us this morning? Amen. Will you join us as Joe leads us again in this song?
So feel free to sing along, or again, just sit with the meaning of these words. See the star in the sky, heard the baby cry. For all we're meant to be down here, down low. Far beyond what I could dream for, beyond the dreams I could wish for, you came down to be here with me, down here, down low. Did you sing, singing harmony, lifted on angels' wings, Gloria, down here, down low. All right, here's the fun part. Gloria's. Gloria, 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 oh Gloria, 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 now Gloria, oh Gloria, down here, down low. Did you hear the angels sing when heaven sent a newborn king, and we all bow down, we bow down low.
Thank you, Joe. I love new modern songs, and I love the songs of old. And this week, I was thinking about, so we put up our Christmas tree at our house last night, and at my house, that's a big deal. It's kind of the center of attention for the holiday season. But as I was doing it, we called the tree that we were working on last night our family tree, and that's where all the old ornaments of all the, memories, Cameron's shows, all the things, my son, all the things that we've experienced together in our family life are represented on that tree. And so each ornament holds a story. And last night, as I was putting some of them on, I kept thinking about the song Silent Night, an old classic Christmas hymn, one that's been around for so long. And I was thinking about the story of it a little bit. And can I just read you a little bit of that story? I love the history of songs and where they come from. But the story goes like this. On Christmas Eve in 1818, two men with a small guitar entered a church in Oberndorf, Austria, and prepared to sing a new Christmas carol. Times had been bad. In this place, many people worked on the water, manning the salt barges that plied the Salzach River. The upheaval in Central Europe caused by the Napoleonic Wars had just ended. So this is in 1818. And only 2 years before, the dreadfully dark summer of 1816, later blamed on ash from a volcanic eruption in Indonesia, had caused famine and deprivation. But in that fall of 1816, a young Catholic priest, Joseph Moore, had written a 6-verse Christmas poem that began, Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht. Silent night, holy night, about the nativity of Jesus. 2 years later, Father Moore enlisted a friend, Franz Gruber, a local school teacher and musician, to come up with a melody for the poem that could be played on Christmas with the guitar. Because legend has it that their organ wasn't working because mice had eaten it or water had damaged it. So Gruber's composition is thought to have taken about a day to write, and now the two men put the words to music that Thursday night 200 years ago in St. Nicholas Church. They voiced for the first time what is probably history's most enduring and beloved Christmas carol, Silent Night, Holy Night. All is calm, all is bright. You know the words. And then at the end, sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. And oftentimes when songs are composed by people in times of great stress, there's something quite human about them. And that often resonates with people outside of that particular geographic location or culture or time period. And I think we can say that Silent Night is a song like that. I used to rock my son, who's now almost 25 years old, to sleep singing Silent Night. Whether it was Christmas time or the middle of summer, those words just were always on my heart and mind as I rocked him. But why do I share all this? This morning we're going to be lighting another candle in our Advent candles. We're going to be lighting the candle of peace. And a couple weeks ago, we lit the candle of hope. And sometimes in this season, we want to jump to the joy, and we want to jump to the love, and we don't want to sit in the anticipation of hope in a world of darkness, or even of peace in a world of chaos. And so maybe this song came to mind just because of nostalgia, but I found myself asking the question, what would it be like to sleep in heavenly peace? What would that look like? What would it feel like in a world that's filled with chaos? I mean, you can turn on the news for 5 minutes and be swept into so many crazy stories. And yet, at this time of year, we talk of peace and sleeping in heavenly peace. And I think the peace is one that grounds us and it roots us in our identity as a beloved son or daughter of the Most High God. And it also speaks to a peace that's the word shalom, a peace that draws us in and has us think about a flourishing, a place where all people can actually flourish, where there is no hunger, where there is no need, where there is no homelessness. Can we even imagine? Can we let our minds go there? And as we do, can we actually ask the questions of ourselves? What does it mean to be a person of peace and a person of shalom? And so it's my prayer for you, even in this season, that you would be able to sleep in heavenly peace. And that doesn't mean that all conflict is just going to end and all chaos is going to go away. But can we root ourselves in who we are as children of God? And can we walk in a place and in a spirit of shalom that speaks to the world's heart and that draws us in? So as we think about that, would you stand with me and let's pray a prayer together. It's a responsive prayer. I'll read the part that says leader, and if you would follow it, the part that says congregation. And let's pray this prayer of peace together. God of new life and peace, in hope you are born amidst desperation, in every place and time.
We long for your shalom, for mutuality and cooperation, creativity and regeneration, the righting of wrongs, for the flourishing of all your creation.
We pray for an ending of hostilities in the war zones of your world. We pray for release for all who are oppressed by the stealers of lands and cultures over generations.
May those who have experienced trauma and violence have restitution and space to heal. May those who have raised their weapons instead reach for the trowel and leave. Yes.
We pray for freedom for your embattled earth, an end to the senseless destruction of ecosystems, for technologies that work with and not against the diversity of life of which we are all a part.
Prepare our hearts for peace. Draw our eyes to the good, even amidst devastation and despair. Encourage us in the long work of justice and shalom. Teach us your way of discerning love as we commit to walk the path of peace.
In the name of the Christ child, the Prince of Peace, who comes as surely as the new day in the spirit of shalom. Amen. Amen. You can have a seat.
In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind mid-moon, earth stood hard as iron, water like stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long, long ago. Angels and archangels may have gathered there. Cherubim and seraphim throng the air. But his mother only in maiden bliss worship the beloved with a holy kiss. What can I give him? Poor as I am. If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise Yet what shall I give you? I will give my heart. Oh come, Emmanuel, ransom captive Israel that mourns in lonely exile here, till the Son of God appear. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. O come, O bright and morning star, and bring us comfort from afar. Dispel the shadows of the night, and turn our darkness into light. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. O come, O King of nations, bind in one the hearts of all mankind. Bid all our sad divisions cease, and be to us yourself our King supreme. Let's sing this verse again. O come, O King of nations, bind and won the hearts of all mankind. Bid all our sad divisions cease, and be yourself our King of kings. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to you, O Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to you, O Israel. Be our Prince of Peace, O God.
Again, thank you, Joe. I just have a couple of announcements for you this morning, some things that are going on around here that we want you to know about. So let's look at what those are. First off, join us for Cookies and Carols, December 17th. Bob and Diane, if you want to wave your hands back there, have invited us out to their homestead. You may remember this summer we were going to have a summer bash, and that got canceled and pushed off. And So maybe this can fill some of that because it's at the same location. We're going to be outside around fires, enjoying some beautiful lights and cookies and singing some carols together. So that is December 17th. The address is listed there. It's also on our newsletters, and if you don't get the newsletter, sign up for it, and you'll get all the details. But December 17th, 4:30 to 6. And because of that, we need cookies and we need carolers. And so if you like to bake and you would like to bring some cookies, there's a QR code in the back that you can sign up to bring cookies. And also, if you like to sing and if you can carry a pitch more than just in your pocket, we would love for you to be part of a carolers choir that our own Eric Hobbs is actually going to kind of lead and guide us into. And so, again, there's a QR code in the back. If you want to be a part of that, sign up. We'd love to just enjoy this time together and give people the opportunity to serve by bringing cookies or singing or whatever you want to do. So plan on it, December 17th, 4 to 6:30. Oh, sorry, 4:30 to 6. And then one of our favorite nights around here is Christmas Eve, and this year on December 23rd. And you saw that there's an extra eve, and it is the 23rd, not the 24th. That is when we will gather as Bruce City Church for our Christmas celebration at 6:30 right in this room. It's one of our favorite evenings, and we really look forward to being together. So plan on that, mark your calendars, and make sure you come on the right day. And then our end of year giving goal. We talked about it just a little bit last week, and we have set a goal for $15,000 this year. And that $15,000 will be dispersed in 3 different areas. One is for Salta, Argentina, and their camp project. Our sister church down there is purchasing some land and a camp area that they can run both their Bible schools and their camps, which are a huge outreach for them, something that they really look forward to doing all the time. And to have their own space and not have to keep looking for places to rent is going to help them immensely. So part of the end of the year giving goal will go towards that. The other part will go towards our general budget and also our benevolence fund. Our general budget, meaning mostly our savings, as we've been fixing the front of the building, we've had to dip into that a little bit, and we'd like to get that at a healthy place. And then our benevolence fund is a fund that we have available when people need help. And so we like to have that at a place where we can disperse those funds to people in need when the needs arise. And so that is our end of year giving. It's a lofty goal of $15,000, but we're hoping that you'll help us meet that as you consider your end of year giving. And then on December 25th and January 1st, we are going to be taking 2 weeks of Sabbath. Both of Christmas Day and New Year's Day are both on Sundays. And so we are going to take those Sundays off. And we're going to let you have time with your family. We're going to encourage that. We're going to encourage you for some times of rest, to not let yourself be so worn out, but to actually connect in beautiful ways and experiences with the Creator. And that could be some fall or winter hikes. It could be just being with family, whatever it is. But we want you to be aware of that. On December 25th and January 1st, we will not be meeting here. There will be no services held those days. And then thank you so much for the part that you play in our partnership as we provide these things into the community around us. We could not do this on our own, so thank you for your financial support. There's ways to give. And so if this is your home, that is for you. And if it's not, just let it slide on by. But thank you.
Good morning, friends. Yes, it's good to be with you. Good to see your faces. We have people sitting on the benches for the first time in like 3 years. This is really fun. Filling up in here. There's been a lot of words this morning already. Beautiful words, both sang and spoken. And I just want myself, and maybe some of you want this, I just want a little bit of silence. And I want maybe to let the Spirit just speak to us in the silence, or maybe just to sit in that. So I'm going to pray in a minute, but for now, let's just sit in the quiet for a minute. Spirit, thank you for your brilliant and beautiful presence in the silence. I'm talking right now because that's what is expected of me, but I could sit in that silence for a long time. I need it sometimes, and the noise of the world, the noise of my head and the stuff swirling around, I just need your peace. I need you, Holy Spirit, to calm me. As a poet that I love said, I need you to gentle me. So, Jesus, as we've been doing as a church for the last year and a half, we just sit at your feet. We open the Gospels today, expecting to be changed, expecting to be transformed, expecting our way of seeing things to change. Holy Spirit, may this not be just a weekly exercise, but may this be a moment for you to soften us and to change us, to call us and invite us into deeper things with you, to turn us into better human beings. What more could we ask for? To come and do that. You've been doing it, continue to do it. In Jesus' name, amen. Anybody in the house this morning who has a little bit of a fear of doctors? A little doctor anxiety? That's a thing, I think, right? Where you just rather not know. Just ignorance is bliss. Things are okay right now, and I don't want to hear any bad news, so I'm just going to stay away. For me, it's the dentist. My dad didn't go to the dentist for, I'm not even going to tell you how long. And it instilled this fear in me. And when I think of the dentist, I think of that scraping scalpel that happens on your teeth. Good Lord, I never want to hear that in my life. And so I just stay away from the dentist until that doesn't work anymore. About a year and a half ago, in March of 21, I had this nagging pain in my mouth for way too long, an embarrassing amount of time. But I could manage it, and it was okay until it wasn't okay anymore. And I was in some of the worst pain of my life, and I went to the dentist who sent me to the oral surgeon. They wanted to do a root canal, but they said, I can't do a root canal because your tooth is broken in half. Sounds really bad. And it was so infected, I couldn't open my mouth more than about an inch. And so they couldn't pull my tooth. Finally, a dentist, this magician of a brilliant man, was like, I think I can do it. And he got in there, and he pulled my tooth without me even realizing it. And it was one of those embarrassing moments of like, what have I been so scared of my whole adult life? This guy just changed my world on a little yank of my molar, and my world was all better. But see, I was so scared of what I would find if I went to the dentist. I've come to the point in life where scales are like that. I don't want to see a scale. I don't want to know the truth. 2 weeks ago, we were in a section of the Gospel of John that's kind of like that. We were in this section of the Gospel of John where we started talking about this section of the Gospel of John at the end of John 7 and the beginning of John 8, where there's this disclaimer at the beginning, right? If your Bible's like mine, which they all are, it has this little disclaimer, and it says, just a warning for you, a heads up. The original manuscripts do not have this story, neither do the original witnesses. And then it just goes on and tells the story in kind of italics and small print, as if it shouldn't be there. And if you're like me historically, I've just kind of, it's made me wonder, what's going on with this story? Is it reliable? Should it be in the Bible? Should it be in the Bible? That story, and there was a moment in my life where I was at my most vulnerable state, and my pastor, my college pastor, literally read this story to me as I'm crying, feeling like a failure, and he just reads the story to me, and it changed my life. And then I read that fine print and think, is that even God's word? Should that be there, right? So 2 weeks ago, we had my friend Zach Domak up, who is a Bible scholar and a church historian. He's a professor at Union Theological Seminary in New York City. Because of COVID, praise Jesus, he can teach online and be in Milwaukee. So he's part of our church. And I thought, let's have a church historian and Bible scholar take us through, tell us whether this is reliable or not, what's going on here. Let's look beneath the hood. Let's not get scared of the dentist like I've lived my life doing, but let's actually face the truth. And what Zach said was, sure enough, it shouldn't be there probably. It's not originally part of the Gospel of John. And like that balloon, right? But what we found was most biblical scholars think this is a real part of the Jesus tradition, which all of our Gospels are part of the Jesus tradition. And what we also found was most scholars think, I would say most, Zach, think that this was part of the oral tradition of Jesus, right? He said this 2 weeks ago, that this was an oral story passed down that lasted, that basically eventually people wanted to fit into the canon because it was taken as part of the Jesus tradition. Now, speaking of oral traditions, I was talking to a Native American theologian this week. Like, super interesting conversation, really fun, but this Native American theologian said, I actually wish none of the Bible was written down. I actually wish we kept the Bible an oral tradition. See, because he comes from this Native American tradition where these sacred stories are told orally and passed down. And in his perspective, when a story is told in an oral fashion, it does something different to you than when you read it. Do you know what I'm talking about? You're actually listening. And your imagination is a part of your hearing of the story, and you integrate yourself into the story in a different way. He said when he was doing his dissertation for his PhD, he didn't read the Bible for 3 years. But every time he needed a Bible verse, because he's a theologian, he would have his wife read the Bible to him for 3 years. And he said it completely changed the way I approached and related to the scriptures, having them passed down orally. Then he said something else in the course of this conversation this week. He said, see, we have all these sacred stories within indigenous American theology, within our Native American spirituality, and they're all passed down, and some of them probably are historical and factual and really happened, and some of them didn't. But he said, that's not a question any of us Native Americans ask. That's not a question that's in my grid or my worldview. See, here's the question. The question for me isn't, did this story really happen? The question is, what's the eternal truth that the Spirit is speaking to me right now? And that's a whole different thing, right? And so we do think that this story that I'm about to preach through and in this morning out of John 8, as I approach it just as a layperson, I think it feels like the gospel narrative. Like we have that same Jesus who's brilliant at getting out of these traps. And we have the same religious leaders who are trying to trap Jesus. And we have the same Jesus who's just so gracious and creative in his graciousness and his love. It just feels like the Jesus of the Gospels. But whether or not it's true or really happened or not, this Native American theologian who, again, he's a professor at Portland Seminary. He's a real deal theologian. He would say the question isn't whether or not it really happened. The question is, what is the Spirit, what's the truth the Spirit is speaking to you right now, this morning, in and through this story? So we're going to dive into the story that has brought freedom for so many people and has had questions for so many people. Let's dive into this story, actually. I made the mistake last week. I was reflecting after we had this Q&A time with Zach, and he was just brilliantly telling us about the story. I asked my daughter what she thought of it, and she was like, well, I didn't even know the story that you were talking about because you didn't mention it. And I was like, I suck. Sorry about that. So we're actually going to get into the story right now, so we know what story we're talking about here. John 7:53, they all went home. That's the verse. But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group. That's shame right there, friends. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law of Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" See, they were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing Jesus. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time. The older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up, and he asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go and leave your life of sin." Now, as I normally try to do, I want to kind of open up the hood and look at the mechanics of this story, kind of know what we're dealing with in the ancient context so that we can let the Spirit speak to us in our modern context. In ancient Judaism, adultery was serious business. Adultery is still serious business, but adultery in ancient Judaism was like kill them serious business. There's a reason that these men wanted to kill this woman. It's because of the Bible, right? Leviticus 20, verse 10. If a man commits adultery with another man's wife, with the wife of his neighbor, both the adulterer and the adulteress are to be put to death. Period. The word of the Lord. This is serious business. But you'll notice that there's two people in Leviticus 20:10 who are supposed to be put to death. So there's obviously something going on here with these religious leaders bringing just the woman before Jesus. Then if you read through even just the Proverbs, I have a friend who said he read through the Proverbs every day for a year, which sounds arduous, but if you read through the Proverbs, Proverbs 6, Proverbs 7, Proverbs 9, it's full of this warning to young men to stay away from adulterous women. And it's almost, you can feel the patriarchy in the culture because it's kind of painting a caricature of these adulterous women. Let's read Proverbs 6. "For this command is a lamp, this teaching is a light, and correction and instruction are the way to life, keeping you from your neighbor's wife, from the smooth talk of a wayward woman. Do not lust in your heart after her beauty, or let her captivate you with her eyes." See already in the book of Proverbs this warning against the adulterous woman, but kind of in a way that feels very much one-sided, like kind of putting the blame on this adulterous woman is going to allure you and stay away from her claws and her grasp. You can already see the groundwork being laid for these religious leaders to come and put just this woman on display in front of the men here. Then we find this interesting thing of Jesus bending over and starting to write in the dirt. Has anyone ever wondered what Jesus wrote in the dirt? Any guesses? You said yes. That means you have some guesses. Any guesses? Names? All right, Bob. Any other guesses? Yeah, Michelle. Oh, the Ten Commandments, yes. The Decalogue is the way the scholars would put that. Many have wondered that, yes. Say that again, Lori? Huh? Love, okay. Here, another scripture, yes. So the common themes that scholars wonder if Jesus was writing this in the dirt. First is the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, particularly the 10th commandment, maybe kind of showing that all of you who covet are guilty of sin. There's others who think that maybe Jesus was writing Jeremiah 17:13, which is basically Jeremiah saying that all who stray from the Lord will be written in the dust. Then others think that maybe Jesus was kind of hearkening to a Roman judge. See, because in these days, a Roman judge, when he would declare his verdict, he would first write down his verdict, then he would speak it aloud. But here's the one true thing. Nobody knows what Jesus wrote in the ground. We don't know, but it sure is fun speculating, isn't it? Fun thinking about this just kind of contemplative act of Jesus being lured into this trap. And so there's that too. This isn't just the story of this woman being caught in adultery and this lesson about resisting temptation. The religious leaders are really smart. This is a very similar story to the religious leaders bringing a coin to Jesus and saying, should you pay your taxes to Caesar? It's this trap. See, because the religious leaders know that in Leviticus 20:10, Moses commands us in Mosaic law that someone caught in adultery should be put to death. But then they also know that in Roman law, which is what they are under, whether they like it or not, and they do not like it, in Roman law, it's illegal to execute a person unless you're a Roman authority. And we know from historical writings that Jewish men actually did execute women, and mostly because of adultery. But this was an illegal thing. You could have been caught for treason for executing a person without a Roman authority's endorsement. So they're trying to trap Jesus. If he says, let her go, he's disagreeing with the law of Moses. If he says, execute her, he's committing an act of treason. There's no good answer here. Now, if you were here 2 weeks ago, which I hope you were, if you weren't, listen to it because it was really fun. Zach said something that I thought was really fun and profound and something that you can do with a lot of stories of Jesus. Do you remember when Zach said, this story has been called the story of the woman caught in adultery? But you could also flip it on its head and call it the story of the hypocritical men. Right? Brilliant. You can do this with a lot of Jesus' stories. The story of the seeds, the sower of the seeds, is known in German as the story of the 4 kinds of soil. The story of the prodigal son could be known as the story of the jealous and self-righteous brother. All these stories of Jesus, these parables or stories, can be flipped on its head. And this morning, we're going to treat this with equal status. We're going to give equal play to the woman caught in adultery and the story of the hypocritical men. And what we find is there's this way we in the church, I think, have approached stories like this. And it's all about temptation, right? It's all about this woman who couldn't help but give herself to temptation, and all of a sudden she's standing here with looking at the death penalty being her future. This woman who couldn't help but give in to temptation. And this is something that we Christians are really good at. We're always, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up and when I was in youth ministry, when I was early in my church ministry even, I was obsessed with teaching with myself and with teaching others how to avoid sin, how to avoid temptation. Are you with me? Anybody else have that experience? Christianity is all about sin avoidance. Finding that temptation and staying away from it for the life of you. I've had a different perspective in the last several years because of my spiritual director. And we'll talk through moments when I'm sitting on Mark's couch, one of my favorite places in the world. And we'll be talking through how was your month, and we'll collect the month together and reflect a little bit, and maybe we'll talk about some areas of struggle for me. Maybe potentially we'll talk about me losing my cool with my kids. That doesn't ever happen, does it? And the way my spiritual director will guide me through this kind of thought reflection is he won't say, where was the temptation to sin? Where was that moment, Randy? What he'll ask me is, where was the invitation? from the Spirit. See, because I'm so busy being obsessed with where the enemy is trying to tempt me into my brokenness and my sin, but see, the Spirit is there, right there in that moment when my kids are doing that thing that drives me bonkers again. And I'm tempted to just lose it. There's an invitation from the Spirit in that moment, an invitation into life, an invitation into goodness and wholeness, an invitation into a new way of living and interacting with my children, with my family, with the world around me. There's always an invitation from the Spirit. And see, this, if the more I've started trying to, in the act of examine, trying to collect my day and see where the invitations were from the Spirit, this actually changes the way you see everything. See, because we as Christians have been taught and discipled and groomed into seeing the devil behind every bush, right? We're obsessed with being aware of temptation, seeing where the enemy lurks. See, but what I've been more obsessed with in the last few years since receiving spiritual direction is finding the invitation of the Spirit at every moment. At every fork in the road, there sure is temptation, but there's also an invitation from the Spirit into life. And I think, friends, you find what you're looking for. Are you looking for the devil behind every bush? Because you'll probably find it. Or are you looking for the invitation of the Spirit into beauty and life? Because you will find that if you're looking for it. The Spirit is there at any given moment, inviting you, come on into life. And so as I've been thinking about this story for the last several weeks, this has been my perspective on this story. Not this story motivated by this temptation that this woman gave into, and then Jesus gave this kind of gangster reply to get out of this trap, and this really gracious reply to go and sin no more, and that's the one we love. I've heard that quoted by Christians more than I care to remember. But yeah, Jesus also said, go and sin no more, right? How many times have you heard that or said that? It's all about this transactional grace. It's all about this resistance to temptation. Now go and sin no more. But what if this story is about Jesus inviting both of these groups of people, this woman caught in adultery and these hypocritical men? What if this story is about Jesus giving them an invitation to life on both sides of the proverbial aisle? What if Jesus, when he says, I want to get these words right, what if Jesus, after he's done writing in the ground with his finger, he straightens up and he says, let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her? What if instead of just a gangster reply that's really cool and gets him out of this trap, what if this is Jesus' way of saying, I didn't create you to live your life obsessing about other people's sins. I didn't create you to live in your self-righteous hypocrisy. I didn't create you to live your life watching the news, looking at people that you interact with and judging them nonstop. That is no way to live. See, there's this thing that Shelley spoke about earlier in the service called shalom that I think Jesus is inviting these men into. There's a better way for you to live than just to obsess about other people's sin, and it's called shalom. Shalom is this Jewish concept of peace and flourishing and goodness and wholeness and beauty and life. And I think Jesus was inviting these hypocritical religious men who most of us probably identify with into that shalom. There's more for you. Your spirituality is not all about judgment. In justice in Jesus' world, I think I see this in this story as well. Justice in Jesus' world. These guys wanted retribution. Jesus wants restoration. Maybe Jesus was saying, can you stop obsessing about retribution and start seeing ways to restore broken people around you, yourselves first in line. And then what if Jesus, was looking at this woman, instead of kind of giving her this get-out-of-jail-free card and go and sin no more, what if Jesus is saying to her, girl, I didn't create you to get stuck in this cycle of brokenness, right? How many of you guys identify with those words, getting stuck in a cycle of brokenness? I do. Where you feel like it's just sucking you in, and Jesus maybe is telling this woman, I've created you for shalom. Did you know that, friends? You were created for shalom, for this flourishing. You were created to flourish. You were created for wholeness. Whether you're single or married, divorced, remarried, whether your parents are around, whether your denominational affiliation, whether you believe in Jesus or not, you were created for shalom, for wholeness and goodness in life. And what if Jesus was looking at this woman saying, there's so much more for you here, girl. Come and step into my shalom. And see, this is where each and every one of us find our place in the story. For many of us, if you're sitting in a church service on a Sunday morning, most of us can identify with the hypocritical men, right? No matter whether we identify as a traditional or progressive or conservative, we all obsess about other people's sin, don't we? I know I do. And again, what if Jesus is saying, there's so much more for you than spending your days obsessing about other people's shortcomings? There's wholeness in life, finding the invitation into goodness. And for others of us, what if we're identifying with this woman just caught in this cycle of her own brokenness? Jesus just giving you this invitation, I want to invite you into life. See, every single day there's going to be numerous moments where this old churchy preacher guy would have said, and that was me, would have said, be watching for the enemy. He's all over the place, waiting to devour you. I know that's scriptural. But see, the Spirit's right there alongside. And the question for us every day is, where was the invitation from the Spirit? Sometimes most of the times when you start doing that in the beginning, you're going to recognize that hours after it happened and be like, dang it, there was the invitation. I missed it, right? For me, then I get stuck in that self-judgment, that self-condemnation. Be like, why is it so hard for me to see that invitation from the Spirit? But you keep asking that question, where was the invitation from the Spirit? And eventually, it starts coming closer and closer to real time, to when all of a sudden, when you're tempted to lose your cool with your kids, or you're tempted to get stuck in that cycle of brokenness, about to be sucked in, you say, wait a minute, where's the invitation right now in this moment? Where's the invitation to shalom that Jesus is always offering? I'm going to read this story, since Zach has told us this was likely an oral tradition. And my friend Randy Woodley, the Native American theologian, said all of the scriptures should be read orally. I'm just going to read this, not on the screens. If you want to close your eyes, go ahead. I'm just going to read this one last time. I'm going to take my time with it. And let's just see what it does to us. They all went home, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn, at first light, when the dew in the grass is still wet, the morning smells fresh, she appeared again in the temple courts. And all the people started gathering around him. And Jesus did what Jesus does. He just sat down to teach them. All of a sudden, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group. Then they said to Jesus, "Teacher, This woman was caught in the act of adultery, and the law of Moses commanded us to stone such woman. Now, what do you say? Jesus bent down and started to write in the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, Jesus straightened up and said to them, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw the stone at her." And then he just stooped down and started writing in the ground again. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time. The older ones first, they're the first to get it. Until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there in her shame. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin." That, friends, is an invitation to shalom. Joe, you can come on up. Communion servers, you can come on up. And I want to tell you, this table that we approach every single week is an invitation to shalom. It's a table of shalom. It's a reminder and a refresher, an invitation to reorient the way we see things. Instead of seeing the devil behind every bush, seeing the Spirit at every turn, inviting us into life. This table, the Lord's table, is a reminder that we have been restored. We have been given new life. And it's an invitation to live into that wholeness, that flourishing, that goodness, that beauty, that shalom that you've been created to live in. That's the quality of life you've been created for, friends. Let this table be a reminder. So, Jesus, we come to the table reminding ourselves that you have given us all things. This is a table of plenty, not scarcity. This is a table of renewal and redemption, not retribution. This is a table of covenant that you are faithful to keep. So thank you, Jesus. When you're ready, friends, you could come up the center aisle, grab the elements, and go down the side aisle.
Here's a song of invitation from Jesus. I heard the voice of Jesus say, "Come unto me and rest. Lay down, thou weary one. Lay down thy head upon my chest." Came to Jesus as I was, weary, worn, and sad. I found in Him a resting place, and He has made me glad. Well, I heard the voice Jesus say, "Behold, I freely give thy living water, thirsty one. Stoop down and drink and live." I came to Jesus and I drank of that life-giving stream. My thirst was quenched, my soul revived. Now I live in Him. Well, I heard the voice Jesus say, "I am this dark world's light. Look unto me, thou morn shall rise, and all thy days be bright." I look to Jesus and I found in Him my star, my sun. And in that light of life I walk till traveling days are done. And in that light of life I walk till traveling days are done.
Well, thank you so much for being with us this morning. It's been a joy to be together. And don't forget, as you're leaving, to stop at the Welcome Center. If you're new here, we have a mug for you, a coffee mug that we'd love to give you, but more than anything, we'd just like to get to know you. So be sure to stop by the Welcome Center. Also, if you are liking to bring cookies or to sing in a choir, there's some QR codes back there. Everything you need to know is back there. So stop by, and we would love to just chat with you for a moment. And now, would you just stand with me and receive these words of benediction? These words are found in John 14, the words of Jesus. Receive them. I am leaving with you a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift to the world is a gift that the world cannot give. So don't be troubled and don't be afraid. And so, Bruce City, I bless you now into your week to go in peace, to walk in shalom, and to bring it to the world around you. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Have a great week. We'll see you back here next week at 10 a.m.